Hi guys, welcome back to CAMNES Studio. In this episode, we are going to focus on surveying, archaeological survey, why it is a fundamental step, passage, process in order to advance, in order to start our archaeological investigation in a specific context, in a specific area. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so before starting, I want to strongly highlight the importance of taking part in an archaeological survey, usually a walking type, a pedestrian type, but also any other type, within your education process, in your career. I think it's something very important that will give you a better idea of certain types of information, of data, how to understand better that specific context, not only with a specific case, study case, but also an approach, a method that is going to be very useful in the future for future projects. So I just want to underline this aspect that I think it's a fundamental part of one's experience, okay? Now, we're going to go through 5 main points in order to have a very brief idea of what is archaeological survey. Obviously, the methods, the types, the reasons, the different aspects would need 10 videos. It's very complex. But I just wanted to do this little video in order to start to give you the basics of this very important aspect process that we have in archaeology. Okay, so let's start. Point number 1, prior to the excavation. Usually, not always, but usually, it is a common practice, a good practice, to do some kind of survey of a specific site before starting to excavate, and even better, of a specific area. Actually, in specific part of the world, before gaining access to the excavation permit, you have to present some information, some data related to a survey you conducted in, once again, a specific context or area or region or whatever it is. Sometimes the project is only the survey. Maybe you're not going to excavate at all. So that's two things completely separated, but usually they are combined. And once again, I want to underline how important it is to actually do this before starting to put your trowel in the dirt. Okay, let's proceed. Number 2, so why is surveying so important? Well, probably I would say the number 1 answer is to assess the materials. What is there? What's on the site? What's around it? If there are other sites, because only the presence itself of material tells us that there is something going on. And even the absence is another information. Remember, absence is information. We don't always have to have something to have information. Absence can tell us a lot. So this is fundamental in order to understand, once again, what are the different materials, the pottery, the flint, the bones, I don't know, and the stones, how they are worked, tablets, cuneiform tablets, glass. I mean, any kind of material is speaking to us. It's very important to record that, and we will see better how in the future steps. Let's proceed. Point number 3, another important aspect, another important reason why we do survey is try to assess the chronology of a specific site or a specific area. Because in a lot of cases, for example, in the Near East, you're not so sure what's in that specific site. It's not like, for example, I don't know, in Italy, where you're clearly going to find something maybe related to Romans, to the Etruscans. Clearly, it depends from where you're excavating or you're conducting your research, or maybe Paleolithic or early Chalcolithic, Bronze Age, and things like that. And in other places, as I said before, in the Middle East, for example, it's very hard to understand what's below the surface. So before starting too complex procedures, just a normal walk around done in a specific way, in I would say a systematic way, can already give you a lot of information of what's below the soil. Point number 4. Another fundamental reason why we do the different types of survey is also to learn more about the general, the wider context. This is something rarely done in the past. Now it's practically done by default, which is something good, because you usually focused, concentrated on the little site you were excavating, or huge site, but only on that. Now we tend to try to investigate the different features, if there are, around the site, the region, the area. It's fundamental. We have to consider the whole territory, the whole area of investigation as a whole, okay? Not cherry picking one thing because we are interested in that. And try to have a good idea on, for example, a 5-kilometer radius or 10-kilometer radius. It depends clearly how much detail and how much time and resources you have, but it's a good idea when you're starting a new project to do this, to have a full, well, at least a better data sets of what is happening in that region. Once again, before starting the excavation. Also because you may find specific aspects, solutions, features that may not be directly linked to the site, but that complete the general view, the general information about it. So just to make some examples, I remember when I was surveying in Turkey with Harvard, with Jason Orr, I was very lucky to be part of the group, and we started to find all a series of features directly connected to the pastoral nomad populations, communities that roam the area, and how they were, for example, obtaining their water strategy procurement for their herds, for themselves. So this was a fundamental part in order to reconstruct then the history of that specific site. The anthropology, because we are not just digging a specific context, an area, in order to register, to record what is there, okay? That's another, we could say, meaning, another description of what is a survey. No, not only. I mean, we have to go a little bit after that. We have to try to reconstruct what is taking place, the dynamics, the social and economic dynamics, the anthropologic dynamics. So this is a very useful tool, the whole survey concept and what it gives us around a specific site. Okay, let's proceed. Point number 5. Which are the main types of survey, at least the ones connected to archaeology? Now, we could say there are three main large macroscopic types. The aerial type of survey, the surface type of survey, and the subsurface type of survey. Okay, so the aerial survey clearly means something that is done from above. It falls into the remote sensing type, which can be done with an airplane, with a helicopter, but also clearly with drones. Now there's the drone explosion. Everybody's using drones because they're cheap, they're easy to use, and they can give us a lot of information and a perfect view of the above without using, for example, satellites or other more complex and expensive technology. Clearly, though, also satellites. That's a huge part in the remote sensing, in the aerial survey. In fact, for example, once again in the Near East, there is the famous Corona project, which was the spy satellites, which now unfortunately is unclassified material, which gave us a lot of wealth of information on how was the territory, the region, the roads, the sites in the middle of the past century, more or less. So, for example, that's something fundamental which can take place still today, because sometimes if you don't go high enough, you just don't see specific things, trends, characteristics of the terrain, the nature itself, and the human remains. So that's a fundamental aspect. Or for example, now we're using a lot the so-called LIDAR, which is the light detecting ranging, which is very useful when you try to scan a specific area where there's a lot of green, forests and things like that, bush. So when you have that, you can go through that and really have an idea of a territory. These are new technologies, and there are many more, which are greatly helping archaeologists, absolutely. The second one is, as we said, the surface type of survey, which is the most classic, and I would say even probably the most important, is the one where you walk, the pedestrian, which can be done just going around. That was something done in the past. Somebody was also doing it by car, but it's not very professional, not very scientific. The best thing is to do transits, to go in a specific line, to record every feature you find. And at that point, you have to decide if you're going to do an intrusive type of survey or a non-intrusive type of survey, meaning you're going to pick up the materials and then study them back home, or you're going to leave them there. Record them clearly, but leave them there. It's a choice. But you have to do that. That's what's important, because you're not only recording what you are finding, but the amounts. Usually that's even more important. It depends. Of bone, flint, pottery, all the things we said before. So I remember when we were doing these pedestrian transits, you had to put a little flag, then someone would come over with a Trimble or these satellite types of GPS, putting almost the exact position of every single element and put them all together in a GIS afterwards and try to have a better picture of everything. Very cool and very useful. Then, as we said, we have the subterranean, the subsurface type of survey. And also this, according to the type of terrain of soil that you have, you can do different types. This can also be called like geophysical or geochemical type of surveys. The main ones are the magnetometers, the electrical resistance meters, the ground penetrating radar, GPR, or the electromagnetic EM conductivity. These are the main ones, but there are also other ones in order to understand if there are, for example, stone features, how the soil is compact or not, if it has a specific density, and things like that. So all these together can tell us a lot of a site, practically untouching and nothing before starting a destruction process, which is the archaeological process, as you all know. Okay, guys, so this was a brief overview of the main aspects of survey. If you have further questions, please write them at our email, ask@camnes.org. Actually, you can ask anything. We are here to reply to you, hopefully on video. Thank you again for watching. And remember that understanding the past explains the present and defines our future.
Hi guys, if you want to discover more about archaeology and our ancient past from a different perspective, make sure to click on the CAMNES logo here below. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you will never miss an episode and join the archaeological community in search of the truth.